Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review. It is the morning briefing on Tuesday, the 24th of September. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning once again by Chris Jack. How's it going, Chris?
Not too bad, Derek. We're the ones left back at base while Josh is off on his travels. He's sending pictures of aeroplanes first thing this morning. So now he's already winging his way to Copenhagen and then on to Malmo, obviously, for the game on Thursday. We'll hold the fort back at base.
Yeah, he might be posting pictures of planes, but I didn't fancy getting that wake-up call. I think he was woke up in the ungodly hour around about 4 a.m. this morning, which I don't wish on my worst enemy. But yeah, there you go. Right, let's crack on with all things Rangers, because there is plenty to get stuck into. First of all, speaking of Joshua, before I forget, there's a great piece on the website this morning, folks. He's looked at Thursday night's opponents in more detail and what we can expect when Rangers head over to Malmo. He's spoken to a Scottish coach on that's sort of revolutionises, really altered how Malmo play. They play a sort of Pep Guardiola style of football, and he's I spoke to him, which is a great piece on the website. Do go and check it out, and let's just hope that Rangers can do the business on Thursday. But anyway, let's talk about the here and now. And yesterday, of course, John Gilligan gave his first press conference as Rangers chairman. Quite an interesting press conference, it's fair to say. Then gave an interview to Rangers TV afterwards. We're going to discuss again, but we came on probably immediately, just shortly after that press conference yesterday. Chris, you were at Ibrox for that, and we discussed some of the takeaways from it. Seen the social media reaction. I think much of it is negative, I've got to say, just based on, I think, that the supporter feeling towards the board and where the club is headed. What we're going to do, folks, if you want to get your point across to myself and Chris from yesterday's press conference, then please do, and we'll get through as much of it as possible. The morning after, the sort of day before, though, Chris, I think we said it yesterday, I think it's a good thing that John Gilligan came out and spoke to the press. It's something we've been crying out for from the Rangers hierarchy for some time. So he deserves credit for that. I think we all like him. He's a good Rangers man, but there are concerns amongst many that is he the man to lead the club forward, really?
I think if anyone is willing to put up an alternative to come in as interim chairman, then I'd like to see the names. Once the current members of the board, when John Bennett makes that decision to unfortunately have to step down as chairman, once that news is then relayed to the board and none of the other board members put their hand up and say, I want to be the man that's going to be interim chairman, Rangers would have to obviously look outside the club. If you're going to have to look outside the club, for me, John Gilligan is the obvious man to turn to. He's there for the right reasons. He's there to try and help Rangers through what we all know is a difficult period. There's a lot of questions, there's a lot of problems, both on and off the pitch. The club is not in a good place on and off the pitch. It could be a whole lot better, and that's what John's here to try and steer the club through this period. Just because he has come in as chairman, that does not fix the issues on the park in terms of the squad and the position that the team are in. It does not fix the finances or immediately fix the Copeland or things like that. But there's, I don't see an obvious alternative to John Gilligan at present. I think the criticism of him personally is way over the top at present, as Butler says there. Excellent timing. I think, as we said on the video yesterday, you cannot doubt his Rangers credentials. You cannot doubt his passion and enthusiasm and love for the club. That does not mean that he gets the chairmanship just because of that. As we said yesterday, there would be a length all the way around the stadium if you're handing out the chairmanship on people who are invested in that, emotionally attached to the football club. But he brings a business background as well. He knows knows the club inside out. He knows the landscape of Scottish football. And for me, he's the ideal man to come in and, I say, steer Rangers through. He will not be the long-term Rangers chairman. Rangers will appoint another chairman after the chief exec search has been finalised. The chief exec is the most important thing that the club are trying to sort that present now that the Copeland situation has been done. John will not remain as chairman. He said himself. We reported last week. He said it in that press conference yesterday. He will not be the Rangers chairman long term. He's not going to be here for years and years. It's going to be weeks or months, more likely months, I would imagine. But I think he's a good candidate and potentially the only candidate to come in at such short notice.
Yeah. Before I address that, Andrew Gill just pulling me up on Joshua's piece. He says, Derek, it seems you misunderstood Joshua's piece. Malmo play the opposite style from Pep, relationism rather than positionalism. So thank you for that, Andrew, for correcting me. But he mentioned, like you said, Chris, the CEO is a priority at this moment in time. One thing that sort of has me slightly concerned, I've got to say, is we all know the move for Jim Gillespie collapsed, walked away from that those talks, and in his Rangers TV interview, as you touched on last week, Chris, they're not going back to the drawing board as such. My mic has just been unplugged. I do apologise, folks. I'm on the camera mic. I'll try and sort that shortly. But in terms of what he said to Rangers TV, John Gilligan, he did say that the candidates that they'll take up the conversations where they left with those guys or women. What that is slightly concerning. I mean, if they're not considered good enough at that point, are they good enough now?
That's a point that I saw raised a couple of times online last night, and the only way that you can really answer that question is once Rangers have actually appointed a chief exec. So I think John laid out a number of those key qualities that he's looking for in a chief exec interview yesterday. He spoke about also a business acumen. Certainly spoke about a knowledge of Rangers. Certainly a knowledge of Scottish football. I think it would be a surprise if we see someone come from really left field and end up being Rangers chief exec. I think it's going to be someone who, not that everyone knows personally and that everyone is fully aware of their background. I don't think Jim Gillespie, I don't think people were fully aware of his background. But I'd be surprised if it's someone that really comes from left field. Ultimately, Rangers need a really high quality operator in that position. Spoke about it in the immediate days after James Bisgrove left. Spoke about it over the summer. It got raised at various points of the transfer window, and a conversation obviously come back again after the Gillespie situation. Rangers need to get this appointment right. For me, the chief exec is even more important than the chairman. If the chief exec is the right person and is the right calibre of candidate, then the chairman can almost become a figurehead. It doesn't have to have that day-to-day influence. Now, if you go down the Dave King point of view, he would perhaps argue otherwise and say that the chairman should be the driving force and he's the main decision maker. And I think that's where there's almost two trains of thought on this. Now, do you want a really strong chief exec? Do you want a really strong chairman? Do you want both? Time will tell if Rangers end up with both or not. But I think the chief exec is clearly the most pressing matter. They were put on the back foot when the Gillespie situation unfolded. I think that the reaction to that potential appointment spoke volumes. People were not really buying into Jim Gillespie as Rangers chief exec. But now that situation has unfolded, the club have to not go back to square one. They do have a list of names. They do have people that have spoken to previously. There is, I would assume, a chance for other people to put their name forward and to try and get into that conversation. I think John said yesterday that they're making good progress. That doesn't mean to say that there'll be an appointment by the end of the week, but you would like to think there would be an appointment within the coming weeks because Rangers really need to get that sorted. And once that chief exec is in, I think that gives the whole club a bit more stability and a bit more direction.
Yeah, so many comments coming in off the back of this. Let's get to a few of them. Bill with the point says it would desperately need a true figurehead and leader as chairman. Let the CEO look after the business aspects between the two. Show the support. We are back. Meaning business. World's Greatest DJ says less than impressed by yesterday's press conference. For me, it proved that Dave King's views on the current board are bang on. We'll discuss what Gilligan had to say about Dave King shortly. And Neil Jameson with the point. My question is, everyone, is do you think this current board will take us forward? That is the concern from many at this point of view, at this point in time. On King, then, Chris, he was asked numerous times on what he made of the comments, wanting an EGM, and his message. What would his message to Dave King be? He says, I'm trying to think, has any other director, any person said anything about Dave? No. Have they responded publicly? No. Will I ever say anything bad about Dave? No. So in answer to your question, do I wish he would stop? Yes. I just say to Dave, please take it below the radar. Behave like a proper shareholder. Don't do what you're doing. It's just a shame because he's a great character and he had a massive influence on the club at the time. I'll always respect that. I've seen some questioning what is acting like a proper shareholder, Chris. King obviously wants change here. It will be interesting to see if there will be a response from him after yesterday's press conference. I'd imagine that there likely would be. King's not going away, is he?
I don't think Dave would be surprised that the board have not picked up the phone and asked him to come back as chairman. I don't think he'll be surprised that they've not accepted that EGM call that we reported on over the last couple of days. I'm sure this has played out as he expected it to play out. What his next move will be, obviously up to him, and we'll wait and see how that unfolds. I think it's on the back of what John said there. He spoke yesterday about Dave giving him one of the best days of his life, when they managed to get control back of the club in 2015. I think it's important that this doesn't get framed as a King versus Gilligan situation, because for me it's not that. It's a different type of situation than when Dave was trying to go against Mike Ashley or going against the Easdales or going against David Summers, for example. Then when he's had his strong opinions on Douglas Park in previous years, it's not a personality clash in this situation. It's not a one man versus one man in this situation. Dave clearly feels that the board in recent seasons have not operated Rangers properly. He clearly feels that Rangers should be run differently going forward, and as a major shareholder, as such a huge figure in the club's history, if he has that opinion, he's more than entitled to express it and to try and change it if he believes that's the way forward. I think it is important not to frame this as King versus Gilligan. The two of them worked really closely together alongside Paul Murray, obviously back in 2015 and before that to lead to regime change. Were on the board together until John stepped down a couple of seasons after that, have remained close in the years after that. So it's not a case of it's King taking shots at John Gilligan. I think his anger, if you like, or his frustration, his feelings, they're towards other members of the board. He spoke last week about guys being there for the jacket and tie, I think was the phrase that he used. Yeah. That's not John Gilligan. That's not the accusation that he's firing at John, who by that stage had only been in as interim chairman for a couple of days, and who has just answered a call of duty from the club in a time of need. So I think people have to take a step back, almost look at the situation, look at what Dave's saying, and then think, well, who's he actually saying it about? It's clearly not John Gilligan, but as interim chairman, John's the one that then has to do that press conference yesterday. He didn't have to do it. I think it was good that he did do it. I think it was the right thing for him to do. But you're not going to get other members of the board flying in just to do a press conference at Ibrox. It's not going to happen. So I think it's fair play to John for doing that. He's the one that had to ultimately answer those questions, and he's just the man that's in that position.
Yeah, before we wrap up on that front, I'll just address some of the comments coming in. Denzel says, easy to be critical of Gilligan's style. However, in the short term, perhaps we need a steady hand on the tiller until the vacant roles can be filled. Let's just move forward in some kind of harmony. Jamie with the point says, I want to hear fresh ideas from John, not stuff we already know. Be interesting to see what Dave's response is. And John with a point as well says Gilligan isn't the problem, it's the strategy of directors ponying up a millionaire here and there just to balance the books and buy the odd player. We need a major injection of cash. You can go and watch that press conference in full, folks, over on the YouTube channel, or you can read everything he had to say on the Rangers Review website. Back to on-pitch matters, Chris. Well, first of all, a bit of admin, but a time for your diaries, folks. Rangers League Cup semi-final against Motherwell has been scheduled for the Sunday at Hampden at 3 p.m, November the 3rd. So, Rangers taking on the Steelmen for a place in the League Cup final. Malmo on the horizon then. They're flying at the top of the Swedish Allsvenskan over there, Chris. It's going to be a tough test for Rangers, there's no doubt about it. Speaking to Stevie yesterday about the problem of left back, Jeffrey not available, so Philip Clement will have to bring in someone to fill that void. I was also thinking, I was speaking to a Malmo journalist yesterday, Jonas Hansen. You can go and watch that interview as well, folks, over on the Extra channel. And he was asking me afterwards, how many changes do you think Rangers will make? Also think he'll make a change in midfield. I don't think we'll see Dujon Sterling start in that area. I'd imagine Mohamed Diamande is likely to come in. Can't foresee too many other changes, I've got to admit.
No, I don't think it'll be a case of the manager playing one side domestically and then sacrificing Europe and going with a weekend side just to give him a better chance of beating Hibs at the weekend. I think he'll go as strong as he possibly can. Left back is clearly an issue. I think Dujon Sterling plays in that area. I think he comes in there. Jeff Day, I think, has, as myself and Josh spoke about post-match at the weekend, I think he's almost going a long way to making that position his own now. He's been really impressive the last couple of weeks. And I doubt if you'd said to people at the start of the season when he came in, he will be a real miss heading into a first European League stage game, people would have thought, nah, probably not. I don't see it, but it's at the case. It's at the stage now. Sorry, last couple of games, he's really kind of come into his own, and he is now a miss. So I think Sterling comes in there. Apart from that, I think Diamande comes back in. Bayrami, I'd like to see start at 10 rather than off the left hand side. And through the middle, I know we spoke about Agaman potentially starting at the weekend. Dessers obviously gets that jersey. Took his goals well on Saturday there, and I think he'll certainly get the nod at number 9. As you say, there a tricky tie for Rangers. Not an easy way to start off this new stage. I think something I just spoke about a couple of weeks ago. It's not clear how many points will you need from these games to actually progress or to get yourself into the next round. We'll become accustomed to whether it's Champions League or Europa League in the old format. You know, you win a couple of your home games, you pick up a point away, and that's almost enough to get you through. In this new format, hard to know what a power score is almost in terms of the points. Certainly going into the last couple of games, there's going to be a lot of change. Working on that final game could be tricky. You're going to have live score on one screen, watching the game, typing away on the other screen. There's going to be a lot of things going on because it could come down to goal difference. There's also the heads-to-heads. It will be a tricky one on that final night. But I think it's important for Rangers try and get off to a good start, give themselves some kind of momentum in this competition, and give themselves some momentum in the season as a whole. Not been a great start to the campaign. Obviously, losing the Old Firm game, losing the Champions League game. That's the situation they found themselves in. They have to try and build a bit of momentum in this campaign now. A couple of decent wins over the Dundee sides since that Celtic game, but there has to be a lot more to come. We really need to see performances and a real consistency in terms of results.
Yeah, absolutely. Blue Bells are Blue says Malmo have only won 2 of the last 6. Derek, not sure they're flying well. They're 11 points clear at the top of the division. They won, beat Häcken on Sunday by 4 goals to 0. They did a couple of stumbles lately, but yeah, they're well clear in the Swedish league, and they will go on and win the title there. They've won last season, last year, and they'll win it this year as well. There's disappointment there, incidentally. They never made the Champions League, but they will be looking to make an impact in the Europa, and Rangers don't have a good record at Malmo's ground either. Of course, came a cropper in the Champions League under Steven Gerrard, and then before that, when Alan McCoist was at the helm, if you remember, when he took over from Walter. Incidentally, thank you to Blue Bells Are Blue for the kind generosities. Gifted 10 Rangers Review memberships. That is very kind of you, buddy. Thank you very much for that. So left back, Chris, who are you starting there?
Sterling, I think, is the obvious one. Robbie Fraser is perhaps the other one that's in the conversation, but not played a lot of football this season. You would imagine if he was going to start on Thursday, the game at the weekend looked like a good chance for him to start. The fact that he didn't start against Dundee, you would imagine that means that he's not going to get the nod on Thursday over in Sweden. That's another Jamie with our suggestion there in terms of Cash and Vero. Again, we've only seen him briefly. Did okay in the minutes that we have seen him, but again, it's a big call to put him in and play at left back. So I think it will be Sterling. Obviously, Ridvan, as the manager said Friday, stepping up his recovery slowly but surely, getting there, but not going to be in contention to start. So I think Sterling's the man.
I think Sterling will get the shout as well, but I said yesterday, as did Stevie, I want to see Robbie Fraser start. Just chuck him in. I said I've been championing him to start for a few weeks now. I'd like to see him get a run, but I think it's more likely to be Dujon Sterling. That then frees up that position in midfield. I touched on, I think Diamandi comes back in, Chris. I think that's probably likely a Diamandi-Barron partnership in the base of midfield. And then you're looking at number 10. You want to see Bayrami start in that position. Tom Lawrence has been playing relatively well. Does he make a change there, do you think?
I think Lawrence has played well the last couple of games. Obviously got his goal up at Tannadice, took it well, should have scored more. Now he should have ended up with more than one that afternoon. But Rangers didn't spend the money on Bayrami to, one, not play him in games of this importance, and two, then play him but stick him out of position. How many times did we mention that number 10 area over the course of the summer? It feels like a very Rangers thing to do, to finally get one and then play him off the left rather than playing him in his natural position.
Yeah.
I know he has operated.
Welcome to Rangers.
I know he has operated in that position. He played there obviously during international time, but he's been brought in as the number 10. I'd really like to see him in that area. Czerny from the right. It does leave a problem on that right left. There's not a standout solution to that problem. Obviously, Ravi Matondo, again, as the manager said Friday, working towards fitness, but not there yet. In another world, you could say, well, we'll move Shefty up and then play Fraser or Sterling at left back. Also, that solution's not available as well. So interesting to see how the manager lines up. If he ends up going with Lawrence and Bayrami from the left, it wouldn't be a massive surprise, to be honest. If that is the side that gets picked, I wouldn't be overly shocked. He could go for experience and just go for what he went with at the weekend there. But for me, it's Bayrami at 10, and then try and find another solution on that left hand side.
Dessers leads the line, I'd imagine, Chris. I'd be amazed if yet a man comes in and starts the game. I think he'll come off the bench, as we have seen in the last few games. But we'll be relying on Dessers leading the line for Rangers. Worryingly, I know that a few comments coming in. Malmo have a really good left winger, and the right back situation is a concern. Even though he scored at the weekend, Chris, the manager's not dropping James Tavernier, I know you and Joshua spoke about it in your post-match reaction video from Ibrox on the weekend. He's just going to go with James Tavernier there, whether he's in form or not.
It looks like it. Again, we said on Saturday pre-match that it looked like a good afternoon to give Tav a rest. The manager mentioned when I spoke to him out in Holland in pre-season that Tav cannot play the same number of games. You cannot have the same load put on him as has been the case for several seasons now. I think that is part of Tav's problem, if you like, right now, that he has been overplayed. He has been asked to do too much. He's no doubt put himself forward to at times do too much. This is not the game to drop your captain. If you're not going to give him a rest against Dundee, you're not going to give him a rest in a European tie, where it wouldn't be a disaster if Rangers didn't win it, but it would be a real boost, a real positive if they could do something to give them a positive start in this campaign. So Tav plays on the right, and the situation on the left influences on the right as well, because you say, well, if Tav doesn't play, Sterling comes in. For me, Sterling's going to be required on the other side. There's also a train of thought say, well, you could play Sterling wide left. Don't particularly like that. Notion. It's been tried. It doesn't really work for me. I think Sterling, if he's going to play now, it's one of the full-back positions or in the middle of the pitch. That's where he has to try and nail down a slot. So I think Tav plays right back. Cortez probably gets the nod wide left. Sterling at left back, and the rest of the team, I think, picks itself as long as everyone has come through the last couple of days. As long as the manager's happy with their numbers and is happy with their levels, he can get the right number of minutes out of them. Again, that's a big consideration for him. He seems to be okay loading numbers onto some players, likes a Tav, likes a Dessers, but is then very careful with others, likes a Cortez coming back from his injury, likes a Gilligan. So as long as everyone is okay, fitness-wise and numbers-wise, in terms of what the sports science guys say, I think the team is. I'd be surprised to see too many shops in there.
Yep. Kev says Cortez needs to play to provide pace and width on the left side of Sterling and Bayrami, both out of position, will make for a long night. So we'll hear from the manager tomorrow when he conducts his press conference ahead of that trip to Sweden. We'll wrap up there. Just a heads up, I think Joshua and I will be recording a show when he touches down over there, when he lands later on this afternoon, around about 3:30, folks. So hopefully you can tune in for that. We might record a Q&A this afternoon as well. So a busy day with regards to all things Rangers here at the review. So plenty to come your way. Right, bid you farewell, Chris. Thank you to you all for tuning in, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.